The day Maya Rodriguez walked into my office and handed me her resignation letter was the day my carefully constructed world fell apart and came back together in the same breath. For 8 months, she'd been my shadow, my protector, the woman who stood between me and every threat the world threw at a high-profile federal prosecutor. She was disciplined, professional, impossibly competent. And in those 8 months, I'd fallen hopelessly, desperately in love with her. But I'd convinced myself she saw me as just another client, just another assignment, another name on a contract. Until she looked at me with those dark eyes full of pain and something that looked like longing and said the words that shattered every wall I'd built around my heart. "I can't protect you if I'm in love with you, Catherine. I have to quit before I get you killed." Before I tell you how losing my bodyguard became the beginning of my lesbian era, tell me what city you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps this channel with stories about women loving women reach more people who desperately need to hear them. My name is Catherine Wells. I'm 35 years old and I work as a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, specializing in organized crime and racketeering cases. It's the kind of job that makes you enemies. Powerful, dangerous enemies who don't appreciate being put behind bars. Death threats are routine, part of the background noise of my career. Security protocols are mandatory. And 3 years ago, after I successfully prosecuted the head of one of the largest crime families on the East Coast, the FBI and the U.S. Marshals Service sat me down and told me in no uncertain terms that I needed full-time personal protection. Not optional, not negotiable. I fought it at first. I valued my independence, my privacy, the illusion of control over my own life. But they showed me the intelligence reports, the intercepted communications, the very real plots to eliminate me. So I agreed. And that's how Maya Rodriguez entered my world. She came highly recommended. Former Secret Service, 8 years protecting cabinet members and foreign dignitaries. Impeccable record. Multiple commendations. My security coordinator called her the best in the business, someone who'd never lost a principle and never would. When she walked into the conference room for our first meeting, I understood why they'd chosen her. Maya was 32, though she carried herself with a gravity that made her seem older. She had long dark hair she kept in a sleek bun at the nape of her neck, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and dark brown eyes that seemed to absorb everything without revealing anything. She wore a tailored black suit that was professional but allowed for movement, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm without being aggressive, her palm warm and slightly calloused. "Ms. Wells," she said, her voice low and steady like warm honey over gravel. "My name is Maya Rodriguez. I've been assigned as your primary protection. My job is to keep you alive, which means I need to know everything about your routine, your habits, where you go, who you see, and who has access to you. I know that feels invasive, and I apologize in advance for the loss of privacy. But your life depends on total transparency and your willingness to follow security protocols without exception." "Call me Catherine," I said, trying to assert some control over the situation. "Ms. Wells makes me feel like my mother." Something flickered in her eyes. Humor, maybe, though her expression remained neutral. "Catherine, it is. We'll start with a full security assessment of your apartment and office. I'll need your schedule for the next month, a list of everyone you interact with regularly, and we'll establish protocols for court appearances, travel, and personal time." From that moment forward, Maya became my shadow. She was there when I woke up at 5 in the morning to go to the gym, trailing me on the treadmill with her eyes scanning every person who entered. She drove me to the courthouse in an unmarked vehicle, varying the route daily. She sat in the back of courtrooms during trials, her attention split between me and everyone else in the room. She checked every restaurant before I entered, swept my apartment for listening devices weekly, accompanied me to the rare social events I still attended. At first, her constant presence felt suffocating. I was used to being independent, to making my own decisions without consulting anyone. I'd lived alone since law school. I valued my solitude. But Maya never made me feel controlled or diminished. She presented options, explained risks in clear terms, and let me make informed choices while ensuring I understood potential consequences. She treated me like an intelligent adult, not a child who needed managing. Within a few weeks, I stopped resenting her presence and started relying on it. There was something deeply reassuring about having someone so competent watching your back. Maya had this uncanny ability to read a room in seconds, to identify potential threats before I even noticed anything was off. A man approaching too quickly from the wrong angle. Someone whose body language didn't match their supposed purpose. Exit routes and defensive positions evaluated automatically wherever we went. But more than her professional skills, I appreciated the way she treated me as a person, not just a job. During long car rides to courthouses and other districts, we'd talk, not just about security, but about life. She told me about growing up in a military family in Texas, moving every few years, learning to adapt quickly to new environments. She told me about her father, a police officer who'd been killed in the line of duty when she was 16, and how that had shaped her decision to go into protective services. She talked about the years she'd spent in the Secret Service, the presidents and diplomats she'd protected, the toll it took to live in a constant state of hypervigilance. I told her about law school, about the idealism that had driven me into public service instead of lucrative corporate law. I told her about the cases that haunted me, the victims I couldn't save, the criminals who walked free on technicalities. I talked about my complicated relationship with my parents, who loved me but wished I'd chosen a safer, more conventional career. I admitted that sometimes I felt like I was living someone else's life, that the version of me everyone saw was a performance I'd perfected over years. Maya listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just present and attentive in a way that made me feel truly heard for the first time in years. 3 months into her assignment, we had our first serious incident. I was leaving a restaurant after a working dinner with colleagues when a man approached from my blind spot, moving too fast, his hand reaching inside his jacket. Maya had him on the ground in under 2 seconds, her knee on his back, her hand controlling his arm, her voice deadly calm as she said, "Don't move. Stay down. Hands where I can see them." The man turned out to be a drunk college student who'd recognized me from the news and wanted an autograph, his hand reaching for his phone, not a weapon. Maya released him immediately with a professional apology, but I'd seen something in her eyes during those seconds. A flash of protective fury that went beyond professional duty. And when we got to the car, her hands were shaking slightly as she opened my door. "Are you okay?" I asked once we were driving. "Fine." She didn't look at me. "Sorry if I overreacted." "Better safe than sorry. You didn't overreact. You were protecting me. That's literally your job." She glanced at me in the rearview mirror, and for a moment the professional mask slipped. "It's starting to feel like more than just a job," she said quietly. Then she looked away, jaw tight, and we drove the rest of the way in silence, heavy with words neither of us was ready to speak. After that night, I started noticing things I'd been deliberately not seeing. The way Maya's jaw would tighten when other people got too close to me in crowds. The way her hand would rest protectively on the small of my back when we moved through packed spaces. A touch that was professional, but also somehow tender. The way she always made sure I ate properly, slept enough, took care of myself, like she couldn't stand the thought of anything hurting me, even my own neglect. And I noticed my own reactions, the ones I'd been dismissing as stress or admiration or anything other than what they actually were. The way my heart would race when she walked into a room. The way I found excuses to work late when I knew she'd be there. The way I'd catch myself staring at her hands on the steering wheel. At the way her shoulders moved under her jacket. At the rare moments when she'd smile and her whole face would transform. I dated men throughout my 20s. A few serious relationships that eventually fizzled out because of my demanding career. The constant moving for different positions. My inability to prioritize romance over work. I'd never questioned my sexuality. I'd assumed I was straight because that's what the default setting seemed to be. But Maya made me question everything. I started lying awake at night thinking about her. About the way she moved through space, all controlled strength and quiet confidence. About what her hands would feel like doing something other than keeping me safe. About what it would be like to kiss her, to be held by her, to be seen by her not as a principal to protect, but as a woman to love. It terrified me. Not the realization that I was attracted to a woman, but the realization that I was attracted to someone who might have to die protecting me. Someone who couldn't afford the distraction of feelings. Someone who, even if she felt the same way, would never act on it, because it would compromise everything she'd built her career on. 6 months into Maya's assignment, we had a close call that changed everything. A suspect in one of my cases, a mid-level enforcer for an organization I was building a RICO case against, showed up at the federal courthouse with a weapon. I was walking toward the entrance when Maya's hand clamped on my arm and she said, "Get down now." Then she was pushing me toward a side entrance, her body shielding mine as shots rang out. She got me into a secure room, radioed for backup, and we spent the next 6 hours locked down while the FBI and courthouse security neutralized the threat. Maya sat across from me the entire time, her weapon within reach, her eyes never leaving me except to check the door. She was calm and focused, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw was clenched. "You're shaking," she said after about an hour. "Someone just tried to kill me." Seems like an appropriate response. She moved to sit beside me on the small couch, not quite touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. "You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you. I promise." "You can't promise that," I said, my voice breaking. "Maya, you could have been shot. You put yourself between me and bullets. That's the job, Catherine. I don't care about the job. I can't stand the thought of you getting hurt because of me. What if something had happened to you today? What if keeping me safe means you die?" Her expression shifted, something raw and unguarded breaking through the professional facade. "Then you understand exactly how I feel," she said quietly. "How I feel every time you walk into that courtroom. Every time you take a case that puts a target on your back. Every second of every day, knowing there are people out there who want you dead." We stared at each other, the truth hanging between us, too big and too dangerous to acknowledge fully. Maya stood abruptly. "I should check the perimeter. Make sure the corridor's secure." She was gone before I could respond, leaving me alone with the overwhelming realization that whatever I was feeling, she felt it too. After that day, the tension between us became almost unbearable. There were moments when our eyes would meet and hold too long, when the air would feel charged with things we couldn't say. Times when her hand would linger on my arm as she guided me through a doorway. Nights when I did turn around and catch her watching me with an expression that made my chest ache. But we never crossed the line. Maya was too professional, too dedicated to her duty. And I was too aware that my feelings could get both of us killed if they distracted her at the wrong moment. 8 months into her protection detail, we had another close call. A vehicle started following us on the highway back from a court appearance in Albany. Maya noticed immediately, her body language shifting, her driving becoming aggressive and tactical. She lost them with evasive maneuvers that would have made a stunt driver jealous, getting us back to Manhattan and into my secured parking garage. But when we got up to my apartment, Maya was pale and shaking in a way I'd never seen before. "That was too close," she said, checking every room twice, looking behind every door, her movements jerky and anxious. "But we're safe. You got us out. Maya, you did everything right." She turned to face me, and I saw something break in her carefully maintained composure. "This time, I got us out this time. But what about next time? What about the time when I'm distracted by my feelings and I miss something crucial and you get hurt because I was thinking about you instead of doing my job?" "What are you saying?" She pulled an envelope from inside her jacket, her hand trembling slightly. "I'm saying I have to quit. This is my resignation letter, effective immediately. I've already contacted the agency. They're sending a replacement. Someone better. Someone who can actually do this job the way it needs to be done." My heart dropped into my stomach. "No, Maya, no, you can't quit." Did I do something wrong? Did I make you uncomfortable? "You didn't do anything wrong. This is entirely my failure." She looked at me with eyes full of anguish. "Catherine, I can't protect you anymore because I'm completely compromised. I'm in love with you. I've been for months. And every single time someone threatens you, every time I have to assess danger, every time I make a tactical decision, I'm not thinking like a professional anymore. I'm thinking like someone who would burn the whole world down to keep you safe. And that kind of thinking gets people killed." The words crashed into me like a wave. "You're in love with me." "Completely. Hopelessly. Catastrophically." She laughed, bitter and broken. I tried to fight it. God, I tried. I've been trained to maintain emotional distance. I've protected dozens of people without ever feeling more than professional concern. But you're different. Everything about you is different. The way you think, the way you care about justice, the way you laugh when something actually surprises you. I fell for you so gradually I didn't even realize it was happening until I was already in too deep. And today on that highway, I made decisions based entirely on keeping you alive at any cost, not on protocol. I drove recklessly. I put us both in danger because all I could think was that if anything happened to you, I wouldn't survive it. That's not how good protection works. That's how principles die. I stood there, my mind reeling, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Maya, I whispered, I'm in love with you too. Her eyes went wide. What? I've been in love with you for months. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought it was one-sided. I've spent half a year trying to hide it, trying to be professional, trying not to make you uncomfortable. Catherine, you can't. I work for you. There's a power dynamic. There are ethical violations. And even if none of that mattered, my feelings make me a liability to your safety. Don't you understand? I can't protect you if I'm in love with you. Then quit, I said, closing the distance between us. If being my bodyguard is what's standing between us, then stop being my bodyguard. But don't walk away from this. Don't walk away from us. And who protects you then? Her voice broke. Who keeps you safe when there are still contracts on your life? When there are still people who want you dead? I'll get another bodyguard. Someone competent and professional who doesn't love me. Someone who can do the job the way you used to. But Maya, I can't lose you. Not now that I know you feel the same way. She stared at me, torn between everything she'd been trained to do and everything she wanted. If I quit, I won't be there. You'll be vulnerable during the transition. If something happens to you because I wasn't there to stop it, I'll never forgive myself. And if you walk away, if you leave because you think it's the right thing to do, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. I took her hands in mine. Maya, you've spent 8 months keeping me physically safe. But emotionally, I've been dying. Living with these feelings and thinking they'd never be returned has been torture. So yes, if you quit, I'll be physically vulnerable for a while, but I'll finally be alive in the way that matters. She looked down at our joined hands, her thumb tracing slow circles on my palm. This is completely insane. Welcome to my life. Insane comes with the job description of federal prosecutor. She laughed, a real laugh this time, and it transformed her entire face. God, Catherine, I love you so much. Then quit. Be with me. We'll figure out the rest together. Maya pulled me into her arms then, holding me like she'd been wanting to for months, like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. When she finally kissed me, it was gentle and desperate all at once, months of restrained longing finally breaking free. Her lips were soft but insistent, her hands careful on my face like I was something precious and fragile, and it felt like every piece of me that had been out of alignment suddenly clicked into place. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. Okay, I'll quit. But I'm calling in every favor I have to make sure you get the best protection available. And if anything happens to you, if you get hurt because I'm not there, I will never, ever forgive myself. Nothing's going to happen to me, I promised. And even if it does, this would have been worth it. Maya submitted her resignation that night. By the next morning, a highly qualified replacement arrived, a woman named Sarah Chen, who Maya had personally vetted and approved. It took weeks for me to adjust to having someone else in that role. But Maya was there every evening after Chen's shift ended, helping me feel safe in an entirely different way. We started dating properly, carefully navigating the transition from professional relationship to romantic one. My colleagues raised eyebrows. My family had questions. The U.S. Attorney's Office made me meet with HR to ensure there were no ethical violations, but I didn't care. We'd both spent too long denying what we felt. 6 months after Maya quit, I won a major case that eliminated the most serious organized crime threat against me. My security detail was reduced to protection only during high-risk events. Maya and I moved in together. She started her own security consulting firm. I kept prosecuting cases that mattered. A year after she resigned, Maya proposed on the anniversary of the day we met, getting down on one knee in my office and asking me to spend forever with her. If you're still watching, thank you. Tell me your stories about choosing love. And subscribe for more stories about women loving women. My lesbian era began when my bodyguard quit. She said she couldn't protect me as she was in love with me. And I learned that sometimes walking away from duty is the bravest thing you can do.